This week on the Virtual Skeptics. Bob beats a dead horse. He has found intelligent life on Earth. Barb's back. And Tim isn't. What's up with Tim, man? I'm your host, Brian Gregory, and I am a fear prisoner. Hi. Oop, that's a little again. Hi, it's me. How you doing? Welcome to the show. If you're watching, sweet. Let me introduce the crew, because, in case you haven't met them before. Here you go. Bob Blaskowitz, Seaside's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Skeptic Alley contributor. And next is Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skeptic Alley Insight at skeptic.com. And Barbara Drescher, hi. Former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to Skeptical Projects as Insight at skeptic.com, and the odds must be crazy. Hi, y'all. What's up?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Hi. So, in case you've been, desperately wanting an episode from us, and we have, kind of canceled a lot of them, we're sorry.
We're very sorry.
We're really sorry. And we'll try to make it up to you. So, this week...
that doesn't mean we're going to do extra episodes, just so you know, right?
Shut up, Bob. No one was going to mention that.
I amuse me.
Yes. So, normally at the beginning of the show, we do I stutter, and then we do some things. The things we do is, first, we need to remind you that you can be involved in the show. If you are on Twitter, or you are on Google+, or you are on YouTube, you can go to any of those places where we're streaming, and on Twitter, hashtag Virtual Skeptics, and say stuff with that hashtag, or comment on the YouTube, or use the Q&A app to ask us a question, and we will, in our, I don't know, we'll
in the fullness of time?
We'll acknowledge you in some way, possibly.
Maybe if we feel like it.
Yeah.
But there's a chance. This week's trivia question. Unfortunately, Tim's not here.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry Tim's not here.
He said there was an incident, and that's all he said.
Yes.
Yeah, well, in his line of work.
That's not good.
No.
Did Blue have a troubadour again or something?
Russian hackers?
Yes. Anyway, here is the question. I'm going to just go ahead and read the question. Is someone going to tweet that? Can someone tweet that?
Yeah, I'm all ready to tweet it.
Awesome, thank you. The homeopathic preparation, calcarea, carbonica, I don't even know if I said that correctly, is supposedly made from oyster shell. What does it claim to cure? So, the thing is, calcarea carbonica, and it's made from oyster shell, supposedly. What does it claim to cure? If you've got that answer, tweet it, comment it, whatever, and we will acknowledge you. Also, there's a video playing behind me if you can figure out what that is, and mention it on one of the methods I mentioned before, not the Q&A app, unless you answer in the form of a question. Then we'll give you credit for that as well.
Just one this time.
Just one. Yeah, well, I only have one big screen TV.
Yeah. It's a little too easy too.
It is?
Yeah.
Really?
Just a little. Yeah.
Ah.
Sorry.
See, I like to hear that.
Maybe I'm different.
I like to hear, and I think
you're
because
different.
it's a big screen now.
It's not easy to you?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I wouldn't...
Oh,
You'll
okay.
get
Well,
it.
it's just me.
You'll get it.
It's just me. It's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and I've watched it recently. So
I watch
it's
them
one of my
regularly.
kids. Yeah, it's one of my kids' favorites too.
I like to watch this one when I'm flying cross country.
Ooh, yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the time I took a flight and the in-flight movie was Top Gun?
Oh my God!
I know. What the hell? I mean,
that's
there's
not a
a
good
crash
choice
in
either.
it. It's not a good cross country. It would be like playing, the Great Santini or something. It's just not good.
So what you got for us this week, Barbara?
Well, I struggled with what to talk about, but I had to talk about this because last weekend I went to see Star Trek with my kids, and we stopped at the little. We were there just a little bit early, and so we had to kill a little bit of time. And so we stopped at the little Japan store. The I guess it's called Daiso. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a store. It's a Japanese junk store, basically.
Oh.
You know, like
all
a dollar
imported stuff?
store. It's a dollar store that
Oh.
imports stuff from Japan, and we got a whole bunch of really cool.
Did they have Pocky? 'Cause I love
They
Pocky.
have tons of Pocky,
And
and they
Mochi?
have the Pocky rip-offs as well. Like I don't know, 3 or 4 different brands of Pocky, fake Pocky. And they had chips and all cookies and all sorts of stuff. And so now I have a pantry full of Japanese food.
Did it have like squid flavored chocolates?
I like the.
No, they had a lot of
squid
seaweed
flavored.
though.
Ugh.
I didn't see any squid flavored chocolate.
Yep.
I did see a lot of seaweed and stuff that I
Weird
wouldn't.
sodas too.
Yeah, they do have a lot of. I know my kids wanted all the sodas too, but they had stocked up on sodas on our trip. So, yeah, no, we have Huckleberry soda coming out of our, you know what? So, yeah, but they have all kinds of other. Oh yeah, this Huckleberry soda. If you ever go to Yellowstone, get the Huckleberry soda. It's really really good. You can get it at the general stores. Anyway, they have lots of junk there. Everything from crafts to toys to candles to sporting goods, you name it. And I found this germanium ring. Germanium ring. Okay,
I've not heard of germanium. I've heard of unobtainium and adamantium.
Germanium is actually a metalloid. It is a metalloid. This however, says W power. I don't know why it says W powder, but W powder power of germanium and Titan. Now, Titan is not a metalloid. Titan is a moon of Saturn. I don't know why you're harnessing Titan power.
And I've heard they clash in movies.
Well,
Yeah.
also a Greek deity.
That's true.
To be fair.
This says effect will be doubled with 2 rings together.
So buy more, please.
Yes.
I don't entirely believe them.
Most of what's here is in Japanese, but I'll read you all of the English stuff. So far I've read you germanium ring, which is what it's called, and underneath that it says support your life with the power of germanium. And it says W power of germanium and Titan. Effect will be doubled with 2 rings together. Germanium power again. And then on the back, it has a few things. It says it has a whole bunch of stuff in Japanese, if you can see that. Mm-hmm. It's all in Japanese. And then it has some stuff in Japanese that also has translations. It says how to use. Wear a germanium ring on your wrist or ankle. This is what's inside. This is one of those silicone, not germanium, no metal in this. It's silicone.
It's got to have germanium. It's homeopathic germanium.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. That you wear on your wrist, you know, just like the stuff that says
worse.
"I love boobies" and stuff like that.
What? I only caught one part of that.
Of course.
I said it's just like the ones that say "I love boobies" and you know any other thing you can have printed on.
Most of the ones that I have charity names on them, not boobies. But
okay. Well, you can, if you are a nonprofit, you can order, you know, these with whatever you want set on them. These things cost a couple of cents a piece to make. You can buy them wholesale for like 6 cents a piece. I paid $1.50 for this, but of course these are sold in with better packaging. These can be sold in sporting goods stores for, you know, up to $60. This says wear a germanium ring on your wrist or ankle. Better effect is expected by wearing several rings at once. It has little pictures of who should be using it. It says for athletes, playing baseball, golf, soccer, and so on. For person with a load of desk work.
I got a varsity letter and so on.
Did you?
Yeah.
Person with a heavy load of desk work, reading, studying, working on papers, and so on.
And so on.
You got a degree in that? I bet.
Yeah.
For busy homemakers. Busy homemakers should wear it. And then there's this whole yellow section at the bottom that says caution. And this one really cracked me up.
Oh my God.
Please keep the ring out of children's reach to avoid children from swallowing it. And children's is children ''s''.
Mm-hmm.
In case you have any skin problem by using the ring, please stop using.
Fair enough.
Please take off ring before taking a bath or sauna bath. I don't know why. I think it's just too powerful. It might affect the water. I don't know. What? The color of the ring may change in time.
In the water.
But the effect won't change. The color of the ring may change in time, but the effect won't change. It's kind of hard to change from nothing.
Yeah.
There are differences in effectiveness of the ring among individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Used only for intended purposes, but it doesn't really tell you what the intended purposes are other than for playing baseball, golf, soccer, and so on, reading, studying, working on papers, and so on, and for busy homemakers. As for disposal method, please follow the local regulation.
How exactly are you supposed to dispose of germanium?
I have
I don't
no
know if there's
freaking
law
clue.
on that. Is it recyclable?
I have no clue. I have no clue. This is the words on this are Titan on one side and Germa on the other. So they couldn't even be bothered to put germanium on it. I think maybe these are a mistake or something. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about this because this is so much. I mean, you can find these things just about anywhere.
Power bands.
But they are just like power bands, and they're just. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, they may not be that exact thing, but that same kind of thing is everywhere. Yeah,
it's everywhere. You can find it in all sorts of different forms. You can find it in rope bracelets. You can find it in. My son did a whole science project when he was in the 4th grade about a line of products, and they said that there was power in these sweatbands, these wristbands they were basic white sweatbands. Just terry cloth sweatbands.
There's totally.
But they said it was infused with titanium.
Ooh.
So it was like the fabric was supposedly dipped in titanium, and the titanium molecules, very homeopathically, were remembered by the molecules in the fabric.
Dipped in titanium, wouldn't that actually set it on freaking fire?
I was thinking the same thing. It's like, wouldn't titanium have to be molten to dip it?
There were molecules in the water that got into the fabric. That was the process that they promised.
So they thought about titanium while they were doing this, and that's...
Yeah. That counts. That counts.
Yeah, that does count.
So the way these things are sold is you will find them in fairs and malls and other places where they might find suckers to buy them. I even saw them once at a lacrosse tournament. I thought it was hilarious. They sold jewelry and they had a big display for this power jewelry, and nobody was coming up to talk to them. Nobody was coming up for the demonstration. They had a whole demonstration thing. Nobody was doing it. Yep. But if you've ever seen the demonstrations, I put in a little video so I can explain how this is done. It's really a very old trick. It's called... Oh, we can actually hear it.
Yeah, well, that's because the volume of the laptop is too loud.
Oh, okay. We don't have to hear it.
I need to control the video, and it's not letting me.
This is a video that... Well, it's okay. You can let it play, because I'll give a little intro. This is a video by Richard Saunders at Skeptics Zone in Australia, who was really instrumental in getting power bands pretty much banned in Australia. They had to refund a lot of money. It cost them a lot of... They had to shut down. Because of the claims that they were making, which were ridiculous. But they use this applied kinesiology to demonstrate the effectiveness. And he has a good demonstration of how it works.
Where does it start?
So at about minute 1.
Let's see if I can do
1 minute.
that.
He started about 1 minute.
It's in the...
He shows how they do it. So...
I think he's starting.
Yeah, okay. No, no. This is the second part. You got to go to the first part.
First part.
Yeah, go to 1 minute.
I can't because the slide thing's in the way.
Oh, crap.
Yep.
I do this demonstration in my classes sometimes. We use like a magic pen or something.
Well, actually, he just did it. You see what he just did? He has the guy put his arms out. He can't
Technology.
Stop it. Damn it. He had the guys put his arms out. Well, now he's doing it differently. But the first time, can you stop it? Can you pause it? The first time he had him put his arms out, and he had him put one leg up in the air, and then he pushes down on his elbow with like 2 fingers, and the guy just falls over. And this time he says, "I'm going to have you hold the magic amulet." And so he holds the magic amulet, and he does the same thing. He puts it in his pocket or something, and he's actually able to stand, even though he puts some hard pressure on his elbow. So, yeah, there you go. Start it there.
Okay.
Okay, so watch
talking.
what he does. And this is what they'll do in the malls. They'll do a few things like this one. He's gonna actually have him hold the. Okay, this is the first demonstration. So he has him put his leg up, and then he pushes down on his arm, and he can't balance. He just can't. And so he has him do it again with the magic amulet. In this case,
wait, you haven't considered that perhaps the reason why he's able to throw that man is because he has the magic amulet.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's true.
But when they would put the band on you, a power band or whatever, and then do it again, and suddenly the person is stronger. When what's really happening, do we know? This was actually my favorite. When he's going to pull on his arm, and he just falls over. He can't hold his weight. He gives him the magic amulet, and then he does it again, just like he did it before, right? And suddenly he can't knock the guy over, so he's much stronger. And they'll do this in the malls, and people will ooh and ah, when what they're really doing is they're doing something very slightly and subtly different the second time that they do the first time.
Engineering.
Yeah, it's all about the point of balance. Yeah, you can turn it off now.
Yep.
So when he pushes on his elbow, he's pushing a little bit further out, and the guy's not ready. I mean, he starts with he doesn't even know what's going to happen yet. So he pushes on it, and of course the guy falls over. The second time, the guy's able to brace himself and balance himself, and then he pushes on it closer to his
what he's
center
doing.
of gravity.
He's pushing away from the center of gravity. The other one,
I was going to get to that with the second one. With the second one, it's very clear of where he's pulling from the same place. He hasn't put his hand out, and he's actually he puts his hand down and he pulls. In the second, I'm talking about the second demonstration, the second thing where he stands up straight and he puts his hand to his side, and he puts his Richard puts his fists in the guy's hand and pulls or pushes down on him. In the first demonstration where he doesn't have the amulet, he's actually pulling the guy away. And in the second one, he's actually pushing toward the guy. So he's pushing toward his center of gravity. So he's actually able to hold on pretty well because he's pushing straight down or slightly toward him. Whereas in the other case, he's literally pulling him away. It's just a very subtle difference that people don't even notice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't notice it. They don't notice that there's a slight difference in the direction that he's pushing or pulling. Yeah. And there's other little factors such as expectation, how prepared they are. In the one that he's doing right now in the still,
which is I need this screenshot. The thumbs up.
Yeah, it's great. It's pretty good. He's actually making him. He's having him swivel his body as far as it'll go, and then he's going to stand and create a marker there, and then give the guy the amulet and have him do it again. And he can almost always go further the second time. But there's reasons for that. For one thing, you're not stretching your arm all the way back when you do that the first time. And you don't have a goal in mind. So, there are reasons why it works better the second time that have nothing to do with these little things. But the demonstration makes people so, impressed that they'll fork over $40, $50, $60, $70 for something like this. For a little piece of silicone that may or may not have a little hologram in it, like the Power Balance ones have this cute little hologram, and they say it's the hologram that causes the effect. Yeah, but it's just a little sticker. It's just a little sticker. It's a little sticker that's a fraction of a cent.
Two things. If you know what they're doing, or if someone explains this to you ahead of time, and then you go watch demonstration, it is so obvious that they're doing something. And
it's one of those you can't unsee it.
The second is, I mean, I'm not going to judge people, but it's just.
Go ahead. That's what
aren't
we're here
there
for.
certain kinds of people that might be more prone to this than others? People who are maybe not a little as practically minded, or
probably. I mean, skepticism is something that certainly ranges within individuals. I mean, it can be taught, but it's also just it's a natural way of thinking. I think I find myself just skeptical of everything, probably more than I should be.
I mean, Scientology still recruits people, and it's the same kind of weird.
Well, the thing about Scientology is if they still use the same techniques, the people that are falling for it are probably people that were never told or just never knew what the inner circle is being told. I mean, their strategy, their initial strategy was they kept people in the dark until they got into the inner circle.
Yeah, but the hard sell tactics in that case, because they have the weird, they have a weird device that has magic to it.
Well, but it doesn't seem like it has magic. It seems like it's scientific.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't know that this is not something that would definitely be magic, be like, oh, it's got benefits that if I hold on to it, it gives me.
Well, it works in movies, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it could be science.
Yeah. And people really think this is scientific.
Things, technology significantly advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
Indistinguishable from what?
Indistinguishable from magic. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then, it's better. And I'm kind of trying to keep the movie up a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
There's nothing.
I'm going to have to, at some point, somebody snap. Oh, man, it changed. We missed our screenshot. I wanted that screenshot.
You can get it. I'm sure you can play it again and get it.
I'll go back and get that wonderful screenshot. Speaking of which, Eve is next, and she claims she has found intelligent life.
It's true.
On Earth.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping...
Obviously not in America. Well, I mean, not very much in America.
Don't get Bob started.
Yeah.
Holy Christ.
Anyway, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams claimed that humans were the third most intelligent species on Earth after mice and dolphins. And it turns out he might have...
Big. So
sorry?
Big. No, sorry, go ahead.
You can't believe how huge it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you may think it's a long way down to the chemist, but that's just peanuts compared to the universe.
Okay, so, Barbara, do you have a Douglas Adams quote to throw in real quick?
No? I can't think of one. I'd have to look it up.
I
do think it's interesting. I'll blow the quote if I try to say it.
Okay.
It's just, but that we do think that digital watches are still pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite, Douglas Adams came with my favorite simile ever, which is that the Vogon constructor fleet was hanging in the air in much the way that bricks don't.
Yeah, I love that one. One of my favorite Douglas Adams is Zaphod's heads spinned. I don't know why that makes me crack up, but I remember the first time I read that, I cracked up so much. I laughed so hard. My mother got angry at me.
Yeah.
I was reading it.
Nice. Okay, go ahead.
Well, anyway, it turns out he may have been over-optimistic about the place of humans in the intelligence scale. In the first place, it's a well-known fact that no non-human animal has ever cast a vote for Donald Trump or Brexit.
Or nailed somebody to a cross for saying how nice it would be to be great, be nice to everybody
for a while. Yeah, exactly.
An XTC song.
Sorry, I had to contribute something.
And secondly, he left out some super smart animals. So first, if you could bring up the first slide,
Ding.
Are crows and other corvids, such as ravens and magpies and a lot of others. Their brain-to-body mass ratio is roughly equivalent to that of great apes and cetaceans. Cetaceans. Whales.
Citations?
Yeah. Corvids are extremely clever. New Caledonian crows have been observed creating and using tools. If you can bring up the next slide, there's a New Caledonian
Hi there.
crow with using
a lockpick.
Stick. Yeah, basically.
A lockpick?
And well, they will carefully break off twigs so they have a hook at the end and form a little hook at the end. They also will do that at little bits of metal if they get a chance to use little bits of metal.
Huh.
And then they use the twigs to remove grubs and bugs from cavities. Corvids hide and store food and then remember where they've hidden it. They consistently divide food into exactly the right size for their young to eat. Eurasian magpies have passed the mirror test, which we'll talk more about later, but it's supposed to indicate self-awareness or at least self-recognition. In the wild, some crows have learned to drop nuts on the road and wait for cars to break the shells for them by running them over. And some have even learned to, wait, it gets better, learn to drop the nuts in pedestrian crossings and then wait for the lights to change so that they can scamper out in the roads while it's safe, collect the nuts, and then fly off before the cars start coming.
There's great videos of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crows can memorize garbage truck routes and apparently feeding schedules at zoos.
Look at those eyes.
Yeah. In captivity,
it's like he sees my soul.
In captivity, they've solved really elaborate tests, to some extent based on this tool use, that they presented with tests where they have to use tools sequentially. Like they have to use a little stick to get a bigger stick. They have to untie a stick that's hanging from a string, hanging from a tree, and to get a bigger stick to get the food. They understand the displacement of water. If you can bring up the next slide.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
Quite complicated things as well. So they drop rocks or objects into tubes to get a floating treat.
That makes sense, though.
That heavy is better than... Actually, this apparently is an Aesop fable. But anyway, they understand that heavy is better than light, solid is better than hollow. They can judge the size of the rock that will fit in the tube. They've also done things where there are what appear to be 3 tubes, one really skinny one in the middle that actually has the treat in it, and they can't fit their beaks in that, or not very far, and they can't drop things in it. But one of the bigger tubes is actually, it's a U-tube, so a U-shaped tube. So it's attached to the skinny tube. So they have to figure out which tube to put the rocks in to make the middle one, the treat rise in the middle one. Huh. And they do figure it out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
They recognize human faces. If a human is nice to a crow, the crow remembers and may leave gifts for a human who was nice to it.
Aw, I want one.
Yeah. If a human was mean to a crow, the crow remembers that too.
He'll peck his eyes out next time he sees him.
Yeah. Researchers at the University of Washington have used masks to study crows' facial recognition. So if someone's been mean to a crow, like, for instance, just by capturing it for banding, or just because. I think later they had experiments where someone was holding a dead taxidermy crow, but something unpleasant. The crow remembers the face, or the literally mask, and that's one thing. But then it passes the information on to other crows. So at the beginning of the experiment, they captured 7 crows and released them. And then they'd walk around campus with the bad mask on, and like 30% of the crows would be scolding them.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, all the crows on campus were scolding them. So they pass that information on to other crows, and then they pass it on to their young as well.
Suck it, apes.
Yeah. So the young who weren't even hatched when the bad behavior occurred also learned to distrust the evildoer. And this is something really rare, possibly unprecedented in non-human animals. Recently, Ivo Jacobs has observed New Caledonian crows. Again, that's the ones who use the tools and all sorts of things. Observed them in captivity using tools to carry other objects. They inserted wooden sticks into a metal nut or a ball and used the stick to transport the other object. According to the abstract, quote, one subject used a stick to transport an object that was too large to be handled by beak, which suggests the tool facilitated object control. The function in the other cases is unclear, but it seems to be an expression of play or exploration, unquote. And again, crows are the first animals observed to have done this.
Huh.
Aside from humans, humans can do that.
So this is beyond what African gray parrots have done. I guess they're more language, I guess, is their thing.
Yeah.
That's
the way crows can talk
that's what we know about them.
Yeah. Huh.
Crows and other corvids are actually quite good mimics. So
the crows, they're the practical ones, while the parrots and they're the philosophers.
Right. Well, parrots are also very, or at least some of them,
Yeah.
very intelligent as well.
Planet of the I want to find a more fancy word for birds.
Birds.
Yes. The planet of the avians.
The avians, yeah.
So the next example of animal intelligence hasn't really been tested in a lab under controlled conditions, but there appears to be a body of evidence that suggests that all over the world, humpback whales, if you could bring up the next slide, are intentionally attempting to rescue animals being hunted by mammal-eating killer whales. Killer whales, by the way, are also very intelligent, but they're technically dolphins, so Adams already has them covered.
They have culture, too.
Yeah. By the way, so do crows.
I was going to say, I mean, what
language,
we're talking about is culture, which is some measure of intelligence.
Yeah, but they don't. But they don't. They don't have the Hawaiian pairings correctly.
Some of the things that seem to be
come up with something.
Kind of typical of the highly intelligent animals is one that they're social and have sort of complex social groups. Yeah. They're interested in play, apparently.
And they share information. So if you see regional behaviors among the same species in different regions, like you do with like the whales hunt differently in different locations.
Yeah, orcas. There's a huge amount of difference among different groups of orcas.
Yeah.
And they're damn clever too. I mean, they're problem solving and coordinated attacks and all sorts of really complex behaviors that needs to be arranged. It's really impressive.
I'm going to hold my comments, though, because I don't know what other animals you're going to break up.
And intelligence has been observed and studied to a certain extent in dolphins and orcas because they're small enough to be able to study them in captivity. Not a real popular thing, but it's been done. The giant baleen whales, harder to deal with in captivity. But anyway, marine ecologist Robert Pittman has observed humpbacks and orcas interacting. And in one instance, the orcas were hunting seals in Antarctica in the presence of humpbacks. And according to Pittman, quote, one of the humpbacks rolled over onto its back and the seal was swept up onto its chest. In the video footage, the humpback quite clearly uses its flipper to nudge the seal onto its chest, unquote. Sadly, the seal was later eaten by orcas. But,
Yum.
Yeah. In protecting other animals, humpbacks are putting themselves in some danger because orcas do hunt them. And there seems to be different disagreement on to what extent orcas prey on giant whales. But probably mostly they go after calves and immature animals. The humpbacks also expend quite a bit of energy, sometimes swimming over 1 kilometer to reach the scene. And sometimes the interactions between the two groups take hours. Pittman and co-authors studied 115 reports of interactions between humpback and killer whales. The article they published in Marine Mammal Science is long and complicated, but humpbacks seem to be the only whales that intentionally engage hunting orcas and intervene. And although they are apparently attracted by the orcas' vocalizations, they sometimes react aggressively toward the orcas regardless of the prey. Although I think if it turns out to be a humpback, they'll always behave aggressively. If it's something other than a humpback, they may, but they don't always. I think one time they even intervened when it was a fish. It should be a different type of orcas.
That should be, because humpbacks eat fish.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, they wanted it for themselves.
Maybe.
That actually has been suggested. But
humpbacks eat fish.
They eat fish. Yeah.
I guess they.
The bubble net feeding is fish.
Yeah.
Yum.
So the question is, why do humpbacks do this? And no one knows exactly. And there may be a number of reasons. One is they really don't like killer whales because killer whales hunt them and particularly go after their young. And they're just
fuck whales,
like rival gangs or something.
They're the only thing that's worse than dolphins.
Killer whales?
Yes.
However, the authors don't dismiss the possibility that altruism plays at least a partial role. And I believe they say that altruism has been rarely observed in big baleen whales. It has in dolphins, or at least anecdotally has been in dolphins. Then at the other end of the size spectrum, according to an article by Marie-Claire Kammertz and Roger Kammertz published last year in the generically named Journal of Science, ants, if you can bring up the next slide.
Really? The Journal of Science?
Ants are cool.
They have passed the mirror test.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Well, okay.
First off, what is this test?
It was in the Journal of
Remember Too Skeptical sometimes?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, a lot of science sometimes publishes some crap too,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is this test?
Well, according to the abstract,
nature.
They describe it as, quote, seeing nest mates through a glass, ants behaved as usual. In front of a mirror, they rapidly moved their head and antennae, touched the mirror, went away from it, and stopped, cleaning then sometimes their legs and antennae. As long as they could not see themselves in a mirror, ants with a blue dot painted on their clypeus, which is the front of their head, did not try to remove it. Set in front of a mirror, ants with such a blue dot on their clypeus tried to clean themselves. While
they're vain, too.
While ants with a brown painted dot of the same color basically as the ant on their clypeus, and ants with a blue dot on the back of their head did not clean themselves. Very young ants did not present such behavior.
I'd have to see that myself. I'm suspicious. I want to see that replicated. That's
But that's one of the most common things they do with the mirror test, to see if animals or humans recognize themselves, that they put some mark on the animal.
Yeah.
And mostly, it's supposed to, as I said, it's supposed to indicate self-awareness or at least self-recognition.
At least some kind of abstract thought, because
only...
you have to be able to project that image you're seeing is you, which is
that's why they put the dot on because just reacting to a mirror doesn't mean anything, because it could be another animal, but they put a dot, where you can't see it while the animal's asleep, and then they wake up, and then if they see themselves in the mirror, and then
don't most cats fail this?
Oh yeah, cats fail it.
Most animals do fail it. For the most part, only highly intelligent animals have passed. Most of the great apes, except for gorillas, have passed, but gorillas have trouble. A single Asian elephant has passed the test. Bottlenose dolphins, possibly killer whales and false killer whales, but it's a lot more. It's more difficult to judge their reactions because they don't have limbs really to go to clean themselves. As I said, magpies have passed. The magpies were supposed to be the only non-mammals that had passed. However, there are problems with the test. There are false negatives, or believed to be false negatives.
Well, the false negatives is a given. I mean, I think the false negatives would be huge for that test.
Right.
It's the false positives that are problematic.
Right.
And that's that.
So if a creature sees themselves in the mirror and they just don't care they've got something on their head, that's a false positive.
That's what they think.
That's a false negative. You can't say anything about their self-awareness if they fail the test.
Yeah.
If they pass the test, that people say that they must be self-aware.
But you can possibly, I guess
fairly ironclad.
Good, I guess, depending on the data. Because I'm sure that if you're watching ants, I mean, there's all kinds of noise in there. And how do you account for that? Because ants do all kinds of crazy things.
You could measure grooming behavior.
The only way that you can
Yeah, but how do you know it's directly caused by the mirror?
Here's the problem. You come up with an alternative explanation for it. That's the problem. It's such a good test because there aren't alternative explanations for the behaviors. Simply looking in a mirror is eliminated by the fact that there's something on the individual. If the fact that they painted a brown dot, a dot the same color as the animal on control animals, and they don't go after the dot, tells you that it's not that they feel anything on their foreheads.
Yeah. Or they smell it or something.
Right. So there are all sorts of controls that they've done that eliminate all the alternative explanations. So the problem here is, in order to disprove the self-awareness part, you have to come up with an alternative explanation for the behavior. If you can't come up with one, you kind of got to accept it. That's why I say I want to see it replicated, because I can't come up with an alternative explanation. That's a pretty good test.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it.
I can think of ways that it could possibly be mismanaged, but you said that they're usually pretty well controlled. So.
Well, that's what she described is a pretty solid, very simple but very solid test. And ants are very cool. They do some really interesting things. They navigate using the freaking sun. Yeah. So, that's
they navigate
incredible.
Using a whole bunch of different.
They also apparently have a very strong
self-aware
reaction to the color blue. So I don't know, but as for false negatives, one of the things about not caring about the marks, they think that might be the case with elephants. One is passed, but a lot of them haven't, and they say, well, they're huge animals that spend a lot of their time throwing dust on themselves. They just may not care that someone painted something on their heads.
Also, how how many times do they see themselves in a reflection in a water or something like that? They don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I guess that's the bucket of you can't really judge. You can't really make a statement about false or about a negative response.
Right. And it's also so biased toward vision, where a lot of animals literally don't see the world the way we do. And even with humans, children who aren't raised in the West tend not to do very well in the mirror test.
Yeah,
For one thing, they may not see mirrors as often.
Yeah.
And they don't have mommy and daddy holding them up to the mirror going, "Who's that? Who's that? Is that you?"
Yeah.
But it's just apparently just different socialization process.
And I know that
it doesn't mean they're not self-aware. So
I know that I have encountered someone else with something on their forehead and then went like this out of reflex.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like we project. Oh, I don't know. See, maybe I don't know. Maybe that's not really the thing because we project.
No, it is
onto each other all the time. So.
Yeah, but we're very, very social creatures, and I think that should be one of the markers of intelligence. But it's all on how we define intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, other animals are very different from us, and we can't subjectively have their experience. So the fact that they think they must think differently because they're wired differently. We're putting our own measures onto them.
Yeah.
You know, what is and is not intelligence. I think that what we should be discussing is how close are they to human beings, and self-awareness is one of those tests that we can say that puts us closer to human beings. But there's, you know, all these animals have culture. I mean, you talked about tool use, right? The crows have culture. They're social creatures. Whales have culture. Wolves have culture. They teach each other. They have regional ways of hunting, depending on the prey that's available to them, and they teach each other to do it. And there are lots of other birds that do things too. I mean, there are birds that put stuff in their nest just because it's pretty, you know, and it's not necessarily just to attract a mate.
They like shiny.
Squirrels.
Yeah,
Squirrels are freaking brilliant.
Cool. Yes.
Squirrels can solve all kinds of problems.
So I'm in a new house, but I love my deck, and I sit out there all the time in the mornings. And one of the things I love going out there in the morning, it's like just when the sun's first coming up. I'll sit there on the deck and I'll read something or I'll drink my coffee. And there's 3 squirrels that live not in my yard but nearby. Yeah. And I can just see them. They'll get up on the wires and they'll go all the way around the entire perimeter of my yard just to get to this one apple tree, grab apples and carry them off. And they know exactly how to get like from tree to tree on the wires. It's just this whole
Have you seen the squirrel obstacle courses?
Yes.
I have.
Yeah,
they're awesome.
When squirrels hide food, I think they forget where they hid it. Crows, though, they know. Last thing I want to say about the ants. The thing that's really puzzling about the mirror test for the ants is that although as a group, sort of in their social environment, hive mind, one might even say, they function very impressively. But individual ants, just on their own, were not usually considered all that brainy. So it's peculiar.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm not convinced. I need to see more research before I'll believe that they're self-aware, because that's not their nature.
The authors say at the end it doesn't necessarily mean that they're self-aware. So.
Okay, well, what's their alternative?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, ants are really, really fastidious. They really do clean themselves. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's a function of that. Really fastidious.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't? But then why wouldn't the ones with the brown spots clean themselves, or why wouldn't they clean themselves if they didn't have a mirror?
It may. I don't know. It could.
Yeah. There's more information out there somewhere.
It might have something to do with the way their senses work. Possibly, because apparently they do react strongly. They reacted strongly to blue, and their vision is definitely different from ours. I don't know if something was reflecting back, other than just going, "Did to me? I'm lovely."
I do it all the time. No.
Well, yeah, you and ants.
But they still have to. They still have to know that the blue dot is on them.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Couple of questions presented by regular watcher Alex Murdoch on this is on YouTube. Here we go. Has anyone given Trump the mirror test? And I think the answer to that is no.
You wouldn't get the mirror back.
Yeah, you never get back. That's right.
I'm sure that yes, that's
clearly he hasn't cleaned this stupid, ugly spray tan off his face, so I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not self-aware.
I'm not sure that's a mirror problem. Honestly. I think that's more of an awareness problem. But
yeah.
I mean, yes. The second question was, what would Perry DeAngelis think of the debate over apes and birds? Now, it's funny you said that because my reference to suck at apes was it's a hat tip to Perry DeAngelis, which was on the original. For anybody who doesn't know. A great podcast, Skeptic Guys of the Universe. It's been on forever. I don't even know how many episodes are at right now. But Perry was one of the original cast members and passed away many years ago. Well, a few years ago. And there was this classic debate back then between him and Scott Novella. No, Steve Novella.
Steve.
It's a doctor named Steve. Why did I get that wrong? Steve was pro-ape. No, Steve was pro-bird. And Perry was pro-ape, right? Am I getting this right?
That's a tough one. I would say apes are probably a little more intelligent, but not by much.
And not all of them.
And certainly not all of them. And not all species of birds are intelligent either. I mean, have you ever met an ostrich?
Yeah.
I have.
The corvids are
not real bright.
No.
They seem to be saying the corvids seem to be pretty close to great apes.
Yeah. I think those and some of the parrots are pretty freaking intelligent. But so are some of the smaller birds too. Some of the other birds can be pretty smart. But yeah, I love to watch crows play. Like especially the ones that use the yogurt cap as the sled.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
So cool.
Love that.
But
it's clearly play. I mean, it's clearly
it's very clearly play,
Yeah.
and it's individual. It's not even social play. It's just one crow having a good time by itself. It's like a dog, with a skateboard or something. It's really cute.
Although none of this matters in this debate because the robots are going to kill both bird and ape alike. As where's the button? There it is.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Yeah. Although this week on the robot apocalypse isn't really that apocalyptic. It's just kind of cool. First off, and if you didn't know, Lockheed Martin is making blimps. Well, not really blimps per se.
Dirigibles?
This is their promo video. I'm going to skip a little bit. Skip a little bit further. There we go. Blah, 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 blah. This is them. Okay. So they're making airships. An airship, the difference between an airship and a blimp is that an airship it does have an envelope that's filled with lighter than air, lighter than our atmosphere gas of some kind. In this case, helium or some kind of mix. But it's a rigid shape, and it's got an airfoil, so that it also uses aerodynamics to get lift. I'm going to skip. There you go. This is going to be a good view of their ship.
Cool.
Blah, 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 blah. It's cool technology, and it's something, it's vertical takeoff and landing. What? This is a blimp.
Can I get the view of the Hindenburg out of my head? Because I can't.
Never. Never you will. Because this uses a combination of technologies, both airfoil, and it also has ducted fans, and it also uses lighter than air. It can do vertical takeoff and landing anywhere. It can carry really heavy loads. It can land on water. It can do all these cool things. Now, this is something they're making already, and it's something that our military has signed up to buy. Some other government programs have signed up to buy because of various reasons. now they have a fleet of them, and now they have to maintain them. And one of the problems with maintaining large balloons or airtight things is that they get holes in them, and you have to repair these holes. Now, typically, I'm going to start this video. Typically, this inspection process is done by humans with a great big, a huge flashlight. So there are people on the inside and there are people on the outside. The people on the outside are shining a very big flashlight. There's Dr. Bob. And then the people on the inside are looking for the light to shine through.
That's like X-Files flashlight if it was like proportional to how bright it was.
It's like when you'd find it in the ceiling of a gym. Now,
giant spider.
I know. This is the spider, and let me. I gotta find the acronym.
So it's like a Roomba. It's like a Roomba.
It's like a Roomba, except it's actually two Roombas. There's one on the inside and one on the outside, and they connect by magnets with the airfoil in between, and they autonomously map the outside of this thing. Where the one on the outside is shining a light, the one on the inside is looking for holes.
Awesome.
And they find the holes, and they actually repair them, and then they take snapshots of the before and after and send that to a central station so that a human can inspect that the process was done correctly. And they use like a swarm of these things, like 10 of these things, wandering around the outside of this airship, and it just they can do the task in very short period of times. They can do it very accurately, and they can make sure. By tracking, look at that picture.
So cool.
That's awesome.
I love it.
They can do by tracking the behavior. They can tell that they've actually covered the entire thing and found all of the leaks, and it's just super cool. Kind of simple technology because they're connected by magnets, and I mean the infrared detection because they're using an infrared light and the optics. All this stuff is off the shelf. It's not new technology. And the networking, everything is off the shelf, and I just think it's wonderfully simple engineering that solves an old problem in a really cool way.
It's very elegant.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really applies.
It's brilliant. I love it.
My engineering sense. So there you go.
I love it.
And blimps. Yes.
Sure.
I love blimps.
I don't think I'll ever go in one, but yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't unless you were driving a front loader or something, because it's like for delivering equipment to the middle of nowhere.
Hey, I thought of an alternative explanation to the ants experiment.
Go for it.
Should I? Because it was kind of going backtracking. Experimenter bias. There is no possible way for the experimenters who are observing the behavior of the ants to not know which ants are which.
Huh.
The ants that are wearing the blue dots it's obvious who's wearing the blue dots. There's no blindness. There's no way to be.
Isn't this a problem with a lot of psychological experiments?
It is a problem with a lot of experiments where observation is necessary in order to count the behavior. So behavioral experiments. But the issue is with most of those types of experiments, you don't have a visual cue. So the experimenter can be blind to which children are in which condition or which animals are in which condition. In this case, the experimenter cannot be blind. They can be blind to the purpose of the study, but they still will know that there's a difference between the brown dotted animals and the blue dotted animals. There's no way to not know that. So they don't even have to know why they're counting what behavior or what behavior they're counting to still be biased. And you can kind of guess what that behavior is if you're trying to observe ants looking in a mirror. You know?
I think I can build a machine that would do this.
Probably.
Anyway. Bob's next, and he's beating a dead horse.
If you could bring up the first slide.
Is it going to be that guy again? Oh my God!
And then there's this asshole.
No warning.
Do we have to talk about Brzezinski today?
We have to talk about it because there was a little bit of a development.
Does he ever smile?
Huh?
Does he ever smile?
I don't know. Only while twisting his mustache. So
you must pay the rent.
Yeah. No. So okay. Recently, the hearing at the Texas Medical Board in front of an administrative judge has moved into its final phase. Everybody has given depositions, and then the depositions were checked in cross-examined during the hearings, and now they're moving into the final summation phase. They don't give a Law and Order-like closing argument. What they're doing, huh? Bum bum. Yeah. They submit their arguments in written format, and so that if you the history of the charges, they started as a 202-page document about 2 or 3 years ago, and they've been whittled down to 50 pages at the insistence of the judge. Now, they were just being complete, and there was a lot of repetition because a lot of the same allegations were applying to several patients, so they were able to compress it pretty successfully down to 50 pages and still retain the flavor of the awful. But these closing arguments have to be 75 pages. This was set out in a
75 maximum.
75-page maximum limit. Set out on the 6th of June, and they had until the 15th. No. Was it somewhere around the 20th or so of last month? They had to submit this document, and so the medical board did, and seeing it laid out with evidence, as opposed to just charges, but this is charges and evidence. They had originally asked if you could bring up the well, no, wait, not yet, not quite yet, not yet.
I want to get his face off my screen.
I know.
It's really starting to bother me.
He looks like a pissed off blobfish. With a bad dye job.
I was thinking that exact thing.
Yeah. So,
or Ziggy.
So, to add the evidence to the charges and limit it to 25 pages was a tall order, so the medical board asked for an extension in the page limit, right? And the judges said, no, you have to turn it in. Okay, so they turned in 75 page of argumentation and an appendix of like a 12-page, single-spaced, footnotes, and appendices that chart the alleged violations for each of the main patients, and added those to the end. So on the 26th, Brzezinski's lawyers, let's go ahead and bring up the one of the okay, good. They said that the FDA investigation, quote, found that this had to do with the files that we FOIA'd about 2 or 3 years ago, back when this started, and then sent to various government agencies. The FDA investigation found that no corrective action had been taken since 2003 on the widespread use of issue of A&P overdoses. There had been no training of the Brzezinski Clinic staff on this matter, nor any reevaluation of the in-house training program provided to patients. In reply, the respondents stated that the overdoses were, quote, self-inflicted and were not serious, and there were no serious adverse events as a result of A&P overdoses. The Brzezinski Clinic does educate patients, but respondents said, quote, patients are stupid.
What?
If they're being treated by you,
and it's your protocol,
could be made,
and you think that the patients are not going to get it, it's your frickin' responsibility as the person designing the study to make sure that it's safe, even for stupid people, Stan. So that was rather galling. And then another way, the next, one of the other things, and it goes on like this for 75 pages. To put it bluntly, he lied about patients' tumor sizes and failed to follow his own rules regarding steroid use. Then he overrepresented the success of A&P by classifying these patients' tumor response as more successful than it actually was. These violations prevented the gathering of any meaningful data. These violations call into question any conclusions regarding the efficacy of A&P based on these patients' misclassified tumor responses. These patients, many of them very young children enrolled by their parents, participated in a deeply flawed, meaningless study, and for their personal battles with cancer failed experiment from which no new medical knowledge can be gained. They suffered and died in vain. And this is really what annoys skeptics, to use Lytotes. The way in which that, these are real...
You mean pisses them off?
Yes.
Rather...
That's what he really means.
I'm trying for once to be diplomatic about the dipshit. So, come on.
That was a nice bit of irony there.
Yeah. Nathan Miller found this first and brought it to everyone's attention. It's the outcome of the challenge. Hold on. I didn't know. So Brzezinski's lawyers had a motion to strike the closing argument. They wanted it written off the record, right?
Of course.
Because it looks kind of bad when you line up all of the awful and make it clear exactly what is going on.
The justification was that it was too long, though.
That there were too many pages. That they violated not only the letter but the spirit of the page length by adding references.
The spirit of the page.
By adding references.
And then they and I didn't, I'm used enough to seeing judges, when it comes to dealing with Brzezinski, make some pretty bizarre rulings. And so I was kind of worried. Like, I didn't know. It looked like what they were citing as precedent was someone incorporated like files from a previous trial into the closing argument document. But that was not the case here. They were not adding any new information, they argued. They were not adding anything new to evidence. They're just charting it, right? In their appendices. And then also, you got to have footnotes. And the footnotes are to reference the 15,000 pages of testimony and evidence that's been gathered in this case. So it has to be there, and it's massive. There are over 600 footnotes. Probably a lot more, I forget, but that's the number that I remember. Like, one of the things that I quoted was 600. And it turns out that, so I was waiting to see what would happen, and if you could bring up the next slide, that motion was denied. So the closing argument stands, and so it's going. We have until I think the 15th is when they close off the case file, and then a ruling will be forthcoming. I looked into how they do this, and it's like, I think there's, like, after the case is formally closed, the judges have a set amount of time, I forget what that is, to issue a ruling, and so they will be finding facts. They're going to make determinations of facts that will end up going to the medical board, and there's. Make no mistake, what's at stake here is Brzezinski's medical license. And if the judges take this closing argument seriously, motherfucker's toast. This is rather impressive.
One can hope.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then after this, his son and most of the doctors who work for him will be in the dock as well, and those have been postponed until we get a ruling in this because some of the rulings of fact will apply to their cases as well. So,
let's
yeah,
hope the dominoes fall.
We'll see. Yeah, I hope so. Now the thing is that they can take his license, but he still owns the clinic and the apparently fucking filthy manufacturing facility. A couple of months ago, there was a you may remember a kerfuffle.
Yeah.
There was a kid in Rhode Island who has a very bad tumor, and the FDA suspended all trials because basically the clinic couldn't demonstrate that their manufacturing plant was any cleaner than a back alley abortionist. So there were issues there. He can still make the stuff. It can be sold abroad. But I think that the important thing is that the options look like they're running out in terms of this case, as far as I can tell. So yeah, I have real hope that there is the interests of justice are served. He has had a vigorous defense, several of them, because he wasn't paying his lawyer. Yeah. So we'll see. And that's something I've gotten out of this, is that kind of one of the important things is that you have a good defense that gives you confidence in the results of the system. So.
Yeah.
Yep, but that's that. Book time.
Yep, time to wrap it up.
Trivia.
Thanks, Bob, for that update on something
that was a good one. That was a good update.
Yeah, well, and Nathan gets credit for finding the response. I was fearing it, and I sat down to like, okay, I'm going to look and see. It should be up today. And I guess it was Monday or so, and Nathan had already posted it, and I was just like, oh, thank Christ. That was a load off. So.
Thanks, Nathan.
Well done.
And Bob. Okay, time to wrap up the show. Did anyone even... I didn't see any responses to the trivia question.
No, nor did I.
It's because nobody watches our show.
No.
Hey, there was a guest on the television screen.
Yeah, we got that. So the question again was the homeopathic preparation... let me see if I get this right.
What's a kiss?
Calagaria carbonica is supposedly made from oyster shell, and what does it claim to cure? And since nobody guessed, I'm just going to throw it out there. Apparently it cures indigestion. And nothing about that makes sense to me. So, oyster shell in homeopathic preparation.
Is it because if you eat bad oysters, it makes you sick to your stomach? Is that the idea?
Yes.
It's a whole homeopathic thing?
Yeah.
But even knowing how homeopathic stuff is supposed to work, that seems like a stretch to me. It's really
even given homeopathy, it still seems a stretch.
Even if we just assume... Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for playing. I did get one wonderfully early and accurate response to the screen behind me. Our good friend, Dr. Atlantis, was on Twitter early in the show.
Of course. Because he would know that one. Yeah.
And he nailed Donnie Darko, which one of my all-time favorite movies. It's a puzzle movie. It's a kind of a weird kind of puzzle you have to figure out, and there's supplemental material. Did you know that the book actually exists? That's referenced in the movie.
We have the DVDs.
Yeah, and this is the director's cut, so this has all this stuff kind of interspersed in it. Yeah. And as a little side note. Oh, we mentioned this early in the show. I like to watch this when I'm flying cross country. So, because I like watching movies with plane crashes when I'm on the plane.
But you don't see the plane crash. You just see the engine fall off.
That's true.
And fall through
it doesn't really fall off. It kind of.
Well, sure it does.
It's complicated. Anyway, Thanks, Blake.
It's got to be better than Left Behind on a plane, or indeed anywhere else.
No doubt. Which I apologize again for the fact that you watched that and we didn't do it on this show. We should do it again.
Well, but Tim LaHaye's not going to die again. I mean, we can hope. But...
Well, we could still talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't go ahead with it.
Crows. They're much better.
They're much more interesting.
Crows are very cool.
They are much more interesting.
Crows.
Frank dies. Crows are awesome.
Crows are awesome.
We
do have
Frank. The Frank spoiler.
What?
Bad.
Frank?
Yeah.
Which Frank?
You gave away the spoiler.
Which Frank?
Crank.
Where'd you talk? Oh, I thought you said Frank. Sorry.
No.
See, now you did it.
No, I did. Sorry.
No. Which Frank though? There's more than one Frank.
True, there is. Well, no, there isn't.
Yes, there is.
I'm pretty sure there are more than one Frank. One was a Hardy Boy. The other one was TV's Frank.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we could debate this because this is a puzzle movie and you can debate all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Frank?
So you have...
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Yes. There's the Frank in. Well, never mind. We'll talk about it later.
Why is Bob
there's one announcement. I have no idea. There's one announcement on this most recent Skepticality in the podcast. If you don't know about it, go check it out. Skepticality, go check it out. It's cool. Bob interviews Penny Lane, director of...
Her name is Penny Lane.
Penny Lane.
She's awesome.
She is the director. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, she directed the movie called Nuts, which is about John Brinkley.
Yes.
And if you get a chance to see
it... There was a screening a few weeks back, the same weekend that Barb was in town, and I missed it. I'm hoping another chance because it looks really
It'll
cool.
be coming to Netflix, I think, before too terribly long. It'll be streaming before long.
Sweet.
It's really good.
So John Brinkley is?
He's a quack from the early 20th century who is also kind of a genius, but really awful.
Genius.
Yes,
yeah.
he's the goat nut guy.
He's the goat nuts guy, yeah.
Hence the name.
We've talked about him on the show before. Yes. So Penny Lane's pretty awesome, and the interview is on Skepticality. Go check it out. It's going to be cool. I'll check it out. And now...
on there too.
Yes, and I also have a segment.
Oh, yeah? It's not in the notes here.
It was when I typed it in there.
After I deleted it. No.
Connected Brinkley, snake oil salesman, to Chaucer's partner.
There's a real good connection there. There's a good connection.
Since you mentioned Perry
DeAngelis.
I think that Susan's segment is about his Wikipedia page, I believe.
Oh.
I think that's on the same episode, yeah.
Huh, cool. Well, Skepticality is worth listening to, so if you're not listening to it, go listen to it. It's worth it whether these guys are on it or not. But these guys are on it, so it's even better. There you go. Go check it out. And now it's book time. And who has a book ready to go?
I do.
Go for it, Bob. We'll go.
The didactic fallacy is the attempt to extract specific lessons from history and to apply them literally as policies to present problems without regard for intervening changes. Many pundits today are in the habit of misquoting Santayana's epigram, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Maybe some people have come to grief this way, but they're probably fewer than those who have fallen into the opposite error. One is apt to perish in politics from too much memory, Tocqueville wrote somewhere, with equal truth and greater insight.
Eve?
Lazarus, the unfounded leper, was only the beginning of confusion. By some strange and tortuous thinking, Lazarus the beggar became identified with Lazarus of Bethany, whom Jesus raised from the dead. From this mistaken identity, it was only a short step to think his sisters, Mary and Martha, to link his sisters, Mary and Martha, to the welfare of lepers. Thus, the Knights of St. Lazarus became known as the Knights of St. Lazarus and St. Mary of Jerusalem. Even more curious was the fact that Lazarus soon vanished almost completely from England, leaving his sisters, Mary and Martha, beatified, conjoined, and confused as St. Mary Magdalene, to protect most English medieval leper hospitals. In the vernacular, the leper hospital became the Magdalen, Magdalene, or Maudlin.
Maudlin. Barbara?
You sound like you got the flu. He laughed. He also kept coughing. The combination was fairly gruesome. I've got something, all right. It must have hit you fast. I had been in just yesterday to grab an early supper, a fat burger, fries, and a strawberry milkshake. I believe it's important for a guy living on his own to hit all the major food groups. You could say that, or you could say it took a while. Either way, it would be right. I didn't know how to respond to that. I'd had a lot of conversations with Al in the 6 or 7 years I'd been going to the diner, and he could be odd, insisted on referring to the New England Patriots as the Boston Patriots, for instance, and talked about Ted Williams as if he'd known him like a brother. But I never had a conversation as weird as this. Jake, I need to see you. It's important. Can I ask? I expect you to ask plenty, and I'll answer, but not over the phone.
I think I know this one. Okay. No lifts. Keep everything simple and open. That's what they said. He didn't like this. Even if the facility would never be used, it should be built as if it might. Why else bother? He'd seen a partial list of supplies and they were going to stockpile inside. Lugging them by stairs seemed impossible unless they planned to stock the floors before the pre-built sections were craned inside. That was more Mick's department, and was one of the many reasons he wished his friend were there. You know, this is why I didn't go into architecture. He scrolled through their plans and saw all the places where his design had been altered. I remember the first class we had where we had to go out and meet with mock clients, and they always wanted either the impossible or the downright stupid, or both. And that's when I knew it wasn't for me. What's your book, Bob?
My book was Historians' Fallacies Towards a Logic of Historical Thought, David Hackett Fisher.
David Hackett Fisher.
Yep.
Is it somebody I should know?
Maybe. Actually, it was funny because this book just came today, and I was reading something that I would have considered completely unrelated, and he was cited, so he may be someone to know.
Huh.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Eve, what's your book?
The Medieval Leper and His Northern Heirs by Peter Richards. Here.
Generally,
with leprosy.
Generally, your books are a title that I would have probably guessed from what you read, and I would clearly not.
Fairly descriptive.
Very descriptive.
Yes.
Yeah, they're fairly descriptive. Yeah. Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess, Brian?
No, just go ahead.
You don't want to guess?
No.
It is 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
I thought so.
It's one of the books we read on our trip.
It was. Well, some of the ideas are covered in other stuff too, so
yeah.
I wasn't quite sure. Okay, good book. Mine is, and I just started this. It's a book called Shift by Hugh Howey. You might have read, because the more popular first book, Wool. It's about a post-apocalyptic future, and there's 3 books in the series, and actually each 3 books are a compilation of like 3 smaller works that were like pushed on the internet. And it's like one of those self-published things that turned in and got popular, and now has turned into books. And I love them. I chewed through Wool really quick, and this one has got me sucked in as well. So.
Chewed through Wool just doesn't sound good.
Yes, I chewed through Wool. Gosh darn it. So there you go. Is that our show? And I guess Bob is showing off one of his guitars. Look, it's a guitar.
It's my new guitar, people.
Yeah,
my new favorite member of the cast.
Wow.
It is a 78 Fender Strat, black on black with a maple neck.
Mm-hmm.
It is sexy. I could be in Joan Jett and the Blackhearts with that thing.
And why don't you play us out?
He can't because we have a small child living next door to us now.
Oh, lovely.
Oh well, I'll do it this way. Thanks for watching, guys. Circle Skeptics is in the production of what's the harm.net, myself, Ice Everywhere, and Delta News. The logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Music Hint, and it is used. Bob, I hope you learned this riff.
I did.
Can you play it live?
I can. Well, maybe.
No, we got a time. Bye.